Welcome to the Self-Publishing School podcast. This is the podcast to listen to if you're an aspiring writer or an author who wants to be more successful. On this show, you'll learn how to write and launch a book successfully, all from the top authors and people just like you who are doing it at the highest level. I'm your host, Chandler Bolt, the founder of Self-Publishing School, the author of the book called Published, and the CEO of selfpublishing.com. For free training on how to publish a book that sells 10,000 copies, go to selfpublishing.com/free training. Hey everybody, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Nick Stephenson. Nick is a best-selling fiction and nonfiction author, and he also teaches other authors how to find their first 10,000 readers. Nick's a good friend. We got another UK person on the Hangout. Excited about that. And also, Nick and I, we geek out on marketing, and we talk marketing, we talk audience building. We're always on Skype sharing our best stuff. So I figured, why not bring him on here to teach? And I'm really excited because this is something that Nick does really, really well, is the marketing and the audience building side of things. So Nick, welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I always love chatting with you. For the guys watching this, we do geek out all the time. Literally, like I'll get a phone call from Chandler, like, "Can we talk about conversion rates?" Like, it's good fun. So literally, we're just gonna have a massive geek session like right now and give you guys something cool to take away. So, absolutely. Brilliant to be.
Now, before we get into all the geeking on marketing, audience building, all that stuff, I want to take it back a little bit to give people some perspective. And partly because I know you have a great story here. And that is, where did you start with all this writing stuff, and how did you get into writing your first book?
So it was, I think I'm a bit of a strange case because I'm not one of these people who's gone down the traditionally published route where I've tried for years to get published and never managed it. And I'm not the kind of person who kind of has always wanted to write fiction for a living. But I did always want to do something of my own. So I have my own business and I wanted to do something creative. And I think the opportunity just came along sort of 2011 sort of time when I'd been working sort of corporate world for, 5 years. I didn't last very long. And sort of realized, like, is this all there is? And figured out pretty early on that I didn't want to spend like the next 40, 50 years of my career doing kind of desk job stuff, doing the same thing day in, day out, making other people money. Some people love that kind of thing. But for me, I wanted my own thing to do with my own life that kind of played with my OCD a little bit so I could do different things and kind of wander off and do different tangents. And then, Kindle came along and I started hearing, loads of stories about, people who were making a living writing books, writing fiction or nonfiction. And it was amazing to me. And I thought, I could do this. I've always enjoyed writing, but, they don't teach you in school about being an author as a career path, do they? Really, they teach creative writing. It's sort of an optional class. At university, it's always sort of like the optional credits that you do because you have to. And, no one really sits down with you and says, you would make a great author, and here's the career path and here's exactly how you go do it. It just doesn't happen. And ever since Kindle came along and sort of opened up the gates, people are actually looking at this and going, wow, I can actually feasibly make a career out of this because I can control my output. I can control how much work I put in. Like, I think Gary Vaynerchuk says, you are 100% in control of your own output, so this is perfect for me. So I get to have control over my career. I get to be creative, get to have my own business. So sort of 2011, going into 2012, I thought, I'm going to have a go at this. Worst case scenario, I'm going to have a blast for 6 months writing a book and it's going to be fun. And if it doesn't sell anything, who cares? Because it's going to be, a fun journey. So I sat down, I wrote my first novel in the Leopold Blake series. I think, first draft 6 months later, awful book. It really was. So another 6 months spent rewriting it, finally published it in sort of early 2012, February it was. And, first month, I think it sold something like $200. Second month, it was $500. And then it sort of tailed off. But the very fact that I was selling books to strangers who were actually God forbid, enjoying it was such a rush that I, quickly wrote 5 more novels within the space of a year, and they kind of took off and did amazingly well. And then I started writing nonfiction, helping other authors kind of figure out marketing, because that's what I was really enjoying as well as the writing side, was actually figuring out how to get the book into readers' hands, build my brand, and build that connection with my audience. And I was loving that just as much as writing the book. So I started teaching other authors how to do that as well, which led to my 2 nonfiction books, which are all about author marketing, which is Reader Magnets and Supercharge Your Kindle Sales. And then finally, I went and did a full-blown course on it that helps authors find their first 10,000 readers, which is your first 10,000 readers, surprisingly. And I've not looked back. So every month things are getting better and better. I'm getting to spend more time with my family, and I couldn't be happier. So it's a great story, and I think it's because I didn't come from anything special. I don't know anybody in the publishing business. I don't have any contacts at the time. I built that all up from nothing, and I'm 100% sure if I can do it, anybody can, because I'm nothing special. I just sat down, butt in chair, and I put the work in. And sometimes it's as simple as that: working hard and working smart and knowing what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
At what point in that story were you able to quit your job and go to doing this full time?
It was a little over a year ago. So this was maybe 2 and a bit years after publishing my first book. So the first year was basically spent failing miserably at at the marketing side of things, and the second year was spent realizing what I needed to do and implementing it. And knowing what I know now, if I was starting from scratch, I could get back to a decent level again, within just a few months, because I know exactly what to focus on. The first couple of years, I was spending all my time writing more books. The conventional wisdom being, if you just write more books, then amazing things will happen, which, is complete nonsense. There are authors out there who literally just write books and they do really well, but they're the exception. They're not the rule. I know thousands of authors who've got 50 titles out who aren't selling anything, and maybe 5 authors who are just publishing and doing amazingly well. You have to have some kind of marketing plan. And it took me a while to realize what that needed to be, and then even longer to put it into practice, because you're starting from scratch. You're trialing and erroring, you're making mistakes, you're spending a lot of money making mistakes, and eventually you figure it out. And this is what I put together, like a blueprint that other people can follow, that I wish I had sort of 3 years ago. I'd have been a lot further along today if I'd have had that. So yeah, in the last year, it's been absolutely amazing. Quitting my job meant that I could do this full time, spend more time with the family, not tidy the house, as you can probably tell from looking behind me, but doing what I love to do, which is the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And let's kind of dive into how you learned all these things, how they went from, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm struggling for a year, to slowly learning those. Like, what was that process like, and how did you discover those things that you needed to be doing?
Well, the conventional wisdom, I think at the time, sort of 2012, 13, was, one, the myth, just write more books and, amazing magical things will happen. And number 2, build your brand. The advice is build your brand, build your platform, but nobody tells you how to do that. Everyone says build your platform. Nobody says step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. So it was kind of like trying to decipher what these people meant and how they were doing it. And then after enough digging, I kind of started researching into other market sectors of internet marketing, and how they build traffic, how they convert that traffic into subscribers and fans, and then how they build a relationship and sell. And it was really looking at people who weren't authors and what they were doing, and then adapting that approach into something that works for fiction readers and non-fiction readers.
So there's a great lesson there. You looked outside of your industry to find things that were working, and then applied them into what you were doing.
Well, this is it. There are no new ideas in reality. There are existing ideas that you can repurpose for something else. But in reality, this kind of marketing approach that everybody talks about today has been around for hundreds of years, just in a different guise, and it's just built up and developed over time. So what we have to do as marketers is understand what what is working in the market in general and how certain aspects of that could work for our niches and our sectors. And, understanding what to look out for and recognizing what works is, it's a skill that can be learned. Absolutely. And I think that's what people need to do is pay attention, test and implement, but if you're starting from a framework of knowing, these are the main 3 steps, I need traffic, in this case, readers looking at my book. I need to convert that random traffic into subscribers, email subscribers. And then I need to learn how to sell via email. Those 3 concepts have been around for as long as the internet has existed, but we're only really just starting to apply it in author land and understanding how to do it without coming across as scammy and sleazy, and actually focusing on building a relationship. And that's what takes time.
Got it. And I really want to dive into some of the specifics and details on that just a little bit later. But before we do that, I want to talk about from discovering that to implementing that and seeing results. What did that look like?
It's like a year. I think it was a good year of figuring out, because everyone says, in the step 1, get traffic, right? Everyone worries about traffic. It's where can I get readers from? And, I think you have Ryan Dice on talking about this as well. And I know he'll say exactly the same thing is, there is no shortage of traffic in the world. People are on the internet 24/7, billions of people are there. It's not going to dry up overnight. You've either got to work for it or you've got to go pay for advertising and buy some traffic. There is no shortage. You've just got to figure out how to use it properly. And I think a lot of authors, they despair because they put their books up on Amazon or they run a free promotion, but all they've done is click a couple of buttons and they're astounded when their book doesn't shoot up to the top 50, and it doesn't work like that. We hear these stories from the early days where people would throw up a 99-cent or a free ebook and suddenly they'd be rich. That doesn't happen anymore. You've got to work for it. You've got to be smart and figure out where to get traffic from. And, I tried Twitter, I tried organic Facebook, it just struggled for such a long time. You work for hours and hours writing stuff in your Twitter feed or on your Facebook page. You are getting so excited because someone liked it and someone shared it. It's amazing, but no one buys anything. And it took me such a long time to realize that actually I need to go direct to readers instead of trying to go through Facebook or Twitter or Amazon. We can't rely on these companies to do our job for us because they can turn the tables anytime, change the rules like Facebook have in the past. Amazon brought in Kindle Unlimited and kind of ruined it for a lot of people. We have to control that. So I realized, I think with BookBub coming out with their big kind of push, sort of 2013, they really hit the scene. And I realized that, they've got this huge database of email addresses and they can send a book into the top 20 on Amazon just by sending an email. So all I have to do is build an email list. And when it gets big enough, I'll be able to do the same thing. So my focus became 100% building an email list. And I think from that day until sort of the end of the year, so 6 months after realizing that I needed to focus on emails, I built up like 15,000 email addresses for my fiction list and realized that I was onto something, pretty good, because I could send an email out, I could sell 500 books, 600 books, I could launch a book into the top sort of 200 on Amazon. And they'd stick around because I could email out about other promotions as well. But it was kind of that light bulb moment. It was when I knew that I had to focus on building email. And that was really when it all made such a change, because you've got that focus, you get that drive, work on everything towards that goal, and it makes such a huge difference.
Great. And I want to dive into more on the list side of things, because that's so important. That's what you preach, and that's what we geek out on all the time. And I think that people get Amazon drunk, right? Yeah. Like they've got their Amazon goggles on and they just think, hey, everything is great in the world and I'm just going to let Amazon do their thing and I'm just going to collect the checks. But as you were saying, that's just not the case. So how did you go from, like, you recognized you weren't Amazon drunk, you recognized that, and said, okay, Facebook doesn't work, organic reach sucks, Twitter's not moving books, this isn't moving books. You made that switch over to, all right, got to build my email list. Now, what did that look like? And what were some specific things you did from the get-go to build that email list? Because you said it was what, 6,000 people within a few months or something like that?
It was 15,000 in 6 months.
Got it.
Yeah, so it was a big jump from nothing to big email lists just by kind of doing one thing. And I started off with the this is what most authors do. Or 99% of authors won't do it at all. And then 99% of that 1% will do it like this. And the way I did it was I would put a sign up for my newsletter, in my books or on my website. And I was like, yeah, people are going to sign up for this. I'm going to get so many people. Like none. I had to think 4 or 5 people a month, in the first couple of months of trying this, was signing up. And again, this is looking at other industries, but realizing that you have to give something to people in return for an email address, because an email address, it's private, confidential, it's contact information. People aren't just going to hand it over unless they're getting something of value back again. So this is where I came up with the idea of reader magnets, which is based on the idea of a lead magnet, where you are, or an ethical bribe. I hate that term, but people use it as a way of getting email addresses in return for something of value. So for fiction, it was, I decided to make one of my shorter books, a novella. I decided to offer it for free for somebody if they signed up to my mailing list. I didn't call it a mailing list. I called it a readers group. So there was no connotation with getting newsletters, because no one wants newsletters. I mean, who looks forward to newsletters? They come through the post box. They go straight in the bin. You get newsletters via email every single day. They're not special. They're not interesting. Joining a readers group is a little bit more interesting, especially if you're getting a free book in the process. And it doesn't have to be a free book. It could be bonus chapters. It could be, anything you can think of, audio versions. If you're doing nonfiction, it could be like a case study or a cheat sheet, something related to the book that people have just read. Offer them a little bit more for free, but they have to do something in return. They have to sign up to your readers group, and people will do it. And my subscription level went from sort of 4 or 5 a month to 20 a day without having to do anything. Literally, that's the only change I made. And then it was just a case of getting more traffic to that page so that more people would sign up. And I did that just by using free books on Amazon and Kobo and iTunes, permanently free books, free promotions, because the number of downloads you get is exponentially higher compared to your paid sales. You're getting much more traffic, like 50 times as much traffic to your page, 50 times as many people are seeing your reader magnet, more people are going to sign up. So I was quickly seeing sort of 50 or 60 people a day signing up, and I wasn't doing anything, literally just sat back and let it happen. And then after 6 months, 15,000 people had signed up. And, I can now send emails out. I can do good promotions. I can launch really strong. And it didn't really cost me much to do. It was the cost of a MailChimp account, which is pennies really. And it's made all the difference.
That's great. And I love the different levels there. So we've got most authors right here who have no way to capture emails. This sad but true is the vast majority. Then we have the barely a level up, which is sign up for my newsletter. Then we have you made the change, which was a readers group, which that went from 4 or 5 a month to about 20 a day. And then the next change, which was on top of the readers group, you had the free books inside Kindle, Kobo, all that. And so then that went up from 20 to 60 a day. Is that correct, that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think having 4 or 5 a month people signing up is probably worse than having nobody, because it's just so depressing because you want to get that number up because you need to do it and it's just not happening. But yeah, offering people a free book and telling them that they can join a readers group, that made a huge difference. And then I sort of doubled, maybe even tripled my results by using free promotions, because just the sheer number of people who will gobble up free books is amazing. And it's a built-in filter, because only the people who liked the book enough to join the readers group to get the next book are going to do it. So your email list is automatically filled with very qualified, very targeted customers and readers. So it's the perfect system for automatically growing your list and automatically filtering out all the people you don't really care about. It's great.
And instead of paying for leads, you're getting paid or doing it for free and getting a ton of leads, which
Exactly.
is a
It's
nice
free
difference.
advertising. It's free advertising. I mean, you can spend thousands and thousands on Facebook ads, or you can use free promotions, which, sometimes you'll pay to run a free promotion with BookBub or something. Granted, if you've got perma free books, that's great because that will just run in the background. But pay a few $100s for a big promotion, get 800, 900 people onto your email list. You've just made your money back. Not to mention all of the boosted sales you're going to get as a result. So it really is win-win.
Hey, Chandler Bolt here. I hope you're loving this episode so far. It's time to go from inspiration to implementation. All right, so if you've learned something, we want to help you implement what you've learned with your book. So what I want you to do right now is go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a publishing consultation with one of the experts on my team. We'll talk about your goals for your book, your dreams, your challenges, your next steps, and we'll start putting together a plan. All right, so go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a call with the team. Let's see how we can help with your book. It's time to implement. And now, out of that 15,000 people that joined the list, what would be the breakdown that you would say from your existing books versus from perma-free books?
Of people who join.
Mm-hmm. Like out of that 15,000, how much of that would you say is from what's that breakdown of how people got on that list?
So almost all of them join through the perma-free book because compared to the paid books, just the sheer amount of traffic. I mean, we're talking, at its peak, it was getting 500, maybe even 1,000 downloads a day because it was very optimized. It was popular. It was getting great reviews and it was doing really well. I wasn't selling 1,000 copies a day of my other books. I mean, I wish I was. But I was getting those email addresses, so it made all the difference. People will still sign up through the other books as well, but it's the vast majority come through a perma-free title, or they'll come through a free promotion. So maybe I've done a promotion with BookBub or a different advertiser. They see the reader magnet, they join up. I use giveaways as well. I'll offer a bundle of paperbacks. People will join up, and I'll send them my reader magnet, and they'll join my mailing list. It's a great way of getting your name out there and not having to spend very much money to do it. And then you've got that contact information. You've got that direct line to your readers, and then you can run a promotion whenever you like. So you've got your own sort of mini BookBub ready and waiting for you whenever you need it.
Cool. And so you've got the free stuff coming in. Have you noticed a difference, like free versus paid side? Are those subscribers, the free subscribers, lower quality, or are they still good quality?
Still good quality because it's a transactional relationship when they first start. So I'm not just sending them free stuff. I'm saying, if you want something free, you got to do something for me first. You got to subscribe. You got to confirm your email address, and then I send them questions. I ask them what kind of authors they like to read. I send them information about other authors' books as well. So I kind of build that relationship up quite early on before trying to sell something. So by the time they get to the point where I'm asking them to buy something, the relationship has gone up pretty high. I mean, they know who I am. They know what I'm all about. They know what I stand for. And those who don't unsubscribe, which is most people, they're ready to buy. So it's pretty high all the way through.
And of that, building that 15,000 person email list, did you see that pretty steadily, 60 a day? Was it a big bump in the beginning, then settle down? Was it driven by promos? Like, how does that curve kind of even out?
So it's kind of like you get a peak and then it would drop, and then you get a slightly higher peak and it would drop. So the kind of average line is like this, but in reality, it's kind of like up, down, and slightly more up, slightly down, slightly more up, but climbing. So you do a promotion and it spikes, then it drops, but it drops down to higher than it was before. You do another promotion, it spikes, drops down, but the overall trend is upwards. So it's not a case of, you add 10,000 in one day. You kind of add 20 one day, 60 one day, 50 another, run a promotion and add 500. Then you start adding 70 a day, 80 a day, drops down to maybe 30 a day for a week or two. Do a promotion, another 1,000 people join, then it drops down to like 100, then 50. It kind of builds up over time.
Yeah. And are you mostly doing promotions to the existing perma-free books? Are you putting out more perma-free books? Like, when you talk about those spikes, what does that look like?
So that is the perma-free book, and I will sort of cycle through free promotions on my other books as well. So this is what I did when I was really focusing on building that list up. Was I had 4 of my books in KDP Select plus 1 perma-free, and the perma-free would run along in the background quite nicely, and then I would cycle through free promotions on my other books. So let's say January, I'd run a free promotion on my perma-free book, and that would spike. Then in February, I'd run a free promotion on my normally paid book, but I'd make it free for a couple of days. That would spike it. A month later, the next book. And I'd cycle through all my books. And then I started taking them out of KDP Select. So I built up that email list, and I wanted to start building it up outside of Amazon as well. And then I started getting free promotions on iBooks and Kobo and Nook as well. So through Drafted Digital and Smashwords too, they were running promotions. So it just kept spiking all over the place on different retailers and building up that list continuously through perma-free or limited time free promotions. Or I was running giveaways as well, off-site giveaways where I'd offer a bundle of paperbacks, and you paid $10 to list it in a giveaway directory or something, and that would spike. Another sort of 5,000 people would come in and sign up to my list, and I maybe keep 800, 900 of them would stick around. It was great. I was getting signups for like 7 cents on average. It was absolutely brilliant, and that's just all I've just kept doing that really. You assign a nominal value per subscriber. You figure out how much each subscriber is worth to you. So let's say $1. You add 500 subscribers, that's another $500 in your pocket. Think of it like that. Focus on building up that email list, and it's basically money in your pocket to be used in the future.
And now, what would you say are your top 3 sources of leads? You talked about giveaways, you talked about Amazon, iBooks, Kobo. Like if you had to rank them in terms of the most leads that you get, what would be that top 3?
Well, the top one is definitely free books. So on all the ebook retailers, when you have a free promotion or a permanently free book, if you've optimized the book properly, if you've got a good cover, if it's a good book, people are going to download it. And out of those people, a percentage will sign up to your mailing list. And that's, for me, the number one way of getting people onto your mailing list, because 1, it's really effective. 2, it doesn't cost you much, if anything. And 3, it just runs in the background. So it's absolutely fantastic.
And do you, 1 second, do you see a particular platform that does better than the others? Like how does that, on the free side, like how does that break out?
Well, Amazon is it's the biggest, by far. It's like 70, 80% of traffic will be Amazon. But you shouldn't discount the other sites. So number 2, I'd say giveaways. I ran a giveaway. I gave away a Kindle Voyage. Last year, I think I paid $25 for a featured listing in some giveaway sites. Had 8,500 people sign up to my mailing list. Filtered out the people who weren't interested in my books, and I kept 2,000 of that. So paying $200 for 2,000 email addresses, what's that, like 10 cents? Less than 10 cents? My maths is terrible, but it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Very cheap, very high volume, very repeatable. You do have to actually go through the effort of setting up the giveaway, but it's a great source of targeted cheap leads. And the last one, Facebook ads in recent months have been doing really well. Not quite as high performing as the giveaways in terms of cost per lead. So the cost per lead for a Facebook lead for fiction might be 40, 50, 60 cents. So you're still making a profit, but it's just not quite as cheap as the giveaways. But the main benefit of Facebook is it's much more scalable. So you can leave your ads running and you've got access to Facebook's like billion strong audience. So where it doesn't quite match up in terms of cost per lead, you can scale that up infinitely. So, growth plans, if you want to grow seriously in the future, Facebook ads are going to take you there. Absolutely.
Got it. And you hit the nail on the head, which that was a question I was going to ask, is the scalability of the free side of things. So I love that you talked about Facebook ads. What kind of stuff are you doing on the Facebook ads? Because 50-cent leads are still pretty cheap. What kind of stuff are you doing on that side to get those leads?
Well, it depends on your niche and your audience. So let's say, in my nonfiction business, where there's a lot more revenue to be had, the cost per lead is significantly higher. So we're sort of talking $2 or $3 per lead, but I might make back $7, $8, $9 in revenue later on down the line. With fiction, it's a very broad demographic. So one thriller reader, in my case, is going to be very different from another thriller reader. Put them in a room, they have nothing in common. But two people who are interested in learning about how to market their books, put them in a room, they're going to be very similar. So it's a different kind of ball game. But with fiction, you have a much bigger audience. So you've got, tens and hundreds of millions of people to go at. So you can get very cheap leads, but they're not going to bring you in as much revenue as something that's more targeted. So yes, there is a cheap cost per lead in general, but your revenue per lead is going to be a lot lower. So you might only make back $1 or $1.50 on a 50-cent spend. Obviously that's a great ROI, but you want to keep that cost per lead as down as low as possible. So, the way to do it is using custom audiences, making sure your website's got tracking pixels so that you can build up a Facebook audience inside of your ads manager, making sure that you're tracking people. And then you can target these particular people based on their behavior on your website. You can target people based on what Facebook pages they like. So, if you write thrillers, you might want to target people who like David Baldacci or Stephen Leather. You can target them with ads specific to that genre and then send them to an opt-in page. And you can do really well with that. And you can even send people straight to an Amazon sales page as well. If you've got an audience that's specific enough and your product converts well at a decent price, that will do pretty well as well. So people are doing great things with bundles. I've got a bundle on there as well. That's $6. And I'm sending people there who have landed on my website and shown interest in that book. So there's a pixel on there who's tracking Facebook users who have shown interest in that book. And then I retarget them with ads later on down the line. People who sign up for my mailing list, they'll go to a separate landing page that talks about that bundle. And then if they don't buy it, they'll get a pixel as well and they'll get tracked. And I've got my email list is being tracked on Facebook as well. So, it's all very sort of ninja kind of behind the scenes stuff where this huge audience on Facebook is being cataloged in my ads manager. And then if I want to promote my bundle, I know who's potentially interested in bundles, so I can send an advert to them. If I want to target people who haven't signed up to my mailing list yet, I know exactly who they are. I can go target them with an ad that says, sign up and get a free book. If you like Stephen Leather, you'll love this kind of thing. And it's, the possibilities are endless. But, word of warning, it can get very expensive very quickly. I've had campaigns that I've spent, $1,000 on that didn't make back half that. But over time, you tweak and you optimize. And I consider that, an investment in failing, which is absolutely fine.
And you're paying for an education in the beginning, right?
Paying for an education. And it's, it's getting now getting to the point where I can set up an ad and I know that it's going to work and I know I'm going to make a profit off of it. And it's just a case of then gradually scaling it up so that where, you might have been getting 5 signups a day from Facebook by spending $2 a day, you might want to scale that up slowly over time so that you're spending $20 a day. And then maybe you're getting 60 signups a day and, just keep building it up slowly over time. And you can basically scale as high as you want to. Just keep an eye on the stats. And this is probably the most recent breakthrough for Facebook and authors is this new interest targeting, that we can do there. And it's just absolutely amazing. Really, really powerful stuff.
Now, what kind of ads are you sending to those people? Are you going back? I know you said sometimes it's to an opt-in page, sometimes it's to the actual Amazon page. Are we doing a similar free book offer? I know you talked hey, if you like Stephen Levy, you might like this, but what are some other examples of the type of ads you would run?
Really simple stuff. So just a nice eye-catching image. That's maybe for my thriller series, it might be a guy looking all brooding and exciting, and he's in a trench coat and it's raining and he's got a gun or something kind of hidden. And, it's a big picture of something exciting going on. And then just a little bit of text that says, exciting thriller series, get a full book for free, click here. And people will go to a landing page and they'll sign up. And I'm getting conversion rates of 55-60% on these ads, which for cold traffic is pretty good, which is very exciting stuff. And it's just playing around, having a bit of fun, seeing what people respond to. And Facebook makes it very easy because they give you such a in-depth level of reporting. You can figure out which demographics are responding, men versus women, which age groups, whether they're married or unmarried, what part of the world they live in, what town they live in, what their other interests are, whether they use mobile phones or what their spending habits are. You can drill down to like the nth degree of targeting. And that's what makes Facebook so powerful, is that, I've read case studies where there's been practical jokes played by people running Facebook ads to one person because the targeting is so good, playing with their minds. It really is that powerful. So very cool stuff.
I remember seeing that study where it was a guy playing the prank on his roommate,
Yeah, that
and,
was
and he
it.
keeps serving up ads
Yeah.
to him, and he's like tormenting him with these ads, and the guy's like, "How did
Yeah.
these people
It's
know
like, is
that?"
your name Brad? Do you live in an apartment?
Yeah.
Made him paranoid. It's genius, but you literally can get that deep with it, and that's what makes it so powerful. But again, trial and error,
Mhm.
buzzword of the day. Spend thousands of dollars on it, but you eventually learn it, and it's totally worthwhile.
Now let's talk about the monetization side of things, because you briefly mentioned earlier. Okay, I know my person's on this email list is going to be worth $1.50 or maybe up to a few bucks, or there's that range there. For someone who's just getting into this, which I imagine would be a lot of people watching this, how do you monetize that list? And
Mm.
then we'll follow up with, how do you figure out that number of what those subscribers are worth?
Well, it all starts with the audience that you're going for. So with my fiction examples, we know already that everybody on my mailing list has read at least one of my books and was interested enough to sign up to get another. So I know they're interested in A, books I've written, and B, books that are like mine. So it's pretty easy to figure out what kind of things they're going to like. Is thrillers. All I've got to do is tell them about thrillers and they'll buy them, preferably mine, because then I get more money. But you see how it works. It's pretty easy. By the very fact that they are on my mailing list, they must like thrillers enough to buy them. And that's what I see, is that they absolutely do respond. So it's relatively easy to monetize once you understand what drives your audience. And then you've taken a bit of time to actually build a relationship with them. So I don't just send out a selling email the minute they sign up. I send them a couple of warming up ones. I say, hey, my name's Nick. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. Here's some books that I love to read. And I'll send them to some books on Amazon that are free, hopefully free still. And I say, I love this book. It's free. Go check it out. And then I ask them, what books do you enjoy? And people email me back and they say, I like this author. I like that author. And then I hear the same name enough times. I send them information about those books as well. I'm not trying to make any money out of them at this point, but then maybe after a few weeks, they know who I am. We've built up a bit of a rapport. And then I send them an email saying, I word it better than this, but basically say, have you read my next book yet? If not, here's the link. Go check it out. And people respond really well to it because they're not being bombarded with sales emails. I've taken the time to try to get to know them. I've told them who I am, built that trust up, and they respond really well. And the exact same approach with the nonfiction side as well, which gets even more interesting because then you can look at affiliate stuff. If you're writing in a niche, let's say you write about, marketing or book marketing like I do, there's affiliate products out there that I've used that are really good that I recommend to people. I put together videos that shows them how to use it. And, a percentage of people will buy that product and I'll earn a commission, or I'll have a course or a product of my own that I can sell. So the opportunity is much better for nonfiction stuff because it's much more targeted. So I know exactly what these people want. I can offer them something that's going to give them a load of value. With fiction, all I know is they want books. So I can't really sell them anything else. But depending on how targeted your niche is and your audience is, you could potentially, scale that up to pretty much anywhere you like.
That's a
So
great take.
that's how you monetize, basically.
That's a great takeaway. And one follow-up question on that: are you mostly sending people to your books? Or are you also sending to other books, like through affiliate, through Amazon Associates stuff? Like, are you making money off of that, or how does that work?
So I make a small amount of money from Amazon affiliate stuff. I mean, a couple of $100 a month on a good month. But it's not that exciting because I'm in the UK, so they send me a check after like 100 days, then I've got to pay like 20% to cash it, and then it takes another 60 days to show up in my account, by which point I'm bored. So it's not that exciting. But I use the affiliate link so I can track performance of how well it's doing, just to make sure my audience is still responding well. But, make a small amount of money off of that. If I was being really cutthroat, I might be looking into what else these people might want to buy. So maybe they want to buy a Kindle at Christmas. I might send them an email about the new Kindle Paperwhite or something. I haven't yet done that because I'm much more interested in them reading. But that is something you could do if you were so inclined. Absolutely.
That makes sense. Now, what would you say, because we've covered a lot of ground here, and we started talking about Facebook ads, about pixels, about email list, links, like all this stuff. What would you say to the person who says, look, Nick, this all sounds really like a lot of technical work, and I'm not a technical person. What would you say to that person? Because I feel like there are people who are probably thinking that or questioning themselves right now.
Yeah, so I wasn't a technical person either. I learned all this stuff from scratch. And I think, you talked to me maybe 6 months ago, and then you talked to me like the other day, and you can see the difference. Like, I'm talking about stuff that I didn't even know existed a few months ago because I sat down and learned it because I wanted to understand. So, you've got two options. You can do the trial and error, work it out yourself, learn it, or you can go find, someone to do it for you, or go find some education or a course or something that says, do these 5 exact things exactly like this, and it will work. Those are your choices. Don't pay any money and do it yourself and potentially pull your hair out and smash your own face through a wall, which is what I've done several times. Or, pay for the information, pay someone to do it for you, take the stress away. Entirely up to you. But if you want it enough, you'll make it happen.
Absolutely. And it is funny to hear the transition, because you and I are very similar in the sense that, like, we did not come from a technical background. And my business partner, James, is a lot more technical. And you guys have even got on calls because he does a lot of the technical stuff on our side of the business. And it is funny to see how from when we were first starting, we were both just in the trenches and trying to figure this out. And now it's like you're teaching us stuff, and you and James are getting on calls and geeking out on the tech side. And like, we're just creating these complex things, but all that's happened in the span of a few short months, which I think really goes to show just how quickly you can learn this stuff.
And, I don't let technology be the reason you don't do something, because technology is, either learnable or someone else knows how to do it and they can do it for you. Technology is not an excuse not to do something that you want to do. There is a way to do it. You just, you got to sit down and plan it. So I'll give you an example. As I was putting my course together end of last year, and I knew I had to build a website that could host it and it could have a good user experience and deal with all the membership stuff and the payment stuff. And I was going to do it myself. And I looked at what was required, and I knew that it was going to take me maybe 2 or 3 months at best. And during that time, I wouldn't be able to do anything else. And the very thought of doing this was stressing me out. So I paid someone to do it for me. For other less demanding things like learning Facebook ads, for example, you don't just turn on Facebook and go, hey, I understand it. You learn it. I paid people to walk me through it. I've bought courses on it that show me exactly what I need to do. And as a result, I'm now getting results much faster than I would have done if I'd have sat down and done trial and error. So, don't let technology hold you back. Absolutely don't. There is a way around it for everyone.
Absolutely. And I would say for those of you guys listening here, if you already have a book and if you're looking to grow your author platform, I highly recommend Nick's course, Your First 10,000 Readers. It's, I didn't plan on kind of just talking about this at the end, but I think it plays straight into this. Like, we were talking about paying people to help out and shortcutting the learning curve. And that's something I definitely believe in. I know you as well. I mean, we pay for courses all the time to help solve specific problems in our business.
Yeah. But it goes away overnight. Yeah.
Exactly. And we were even talking about this with the deadline funnel and the the ninja next level stuff that you and I have been brainstorming about. So I think it's fitting that we do a plug for that. Like, I highly recommend checking out your first 10,000 readers, and that'll be very helpful, especially if you already have your first book. That's the caveat there. If you're looking to maximize your efforts, and you are an author looking to make more money and build your platform, build your email list, things like that, definitely check out Nick's course.
That was a great segue. It was almost as though I'd hoped it to go in that direction.
I know, right?
Amazing. Anyway, yeah. Thank you for the plug. Much appreciated.
No problem. And on that note, we'll go ahead and round this out. But before we do, Nick, where can people find out more info on you?
So head on over to yourfirst10kreaders.com, and there's a bunch of free training on there. So as you probably gathered, I do have a premium course, and I think it's awesome. Hundreds of other authors think it's awesome too, but you don't have to buy it. I've got a ton of free training for you at yourfirst10kreaders.com. You can take that and you can go and use it, basically right now, and it will start working for you. And, go check out that free training. It will take you a long way. So that's the best place to go.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed geeking out and diving into the weeds with some of this marketing stuff.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you soon.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Self-Publishing School podcast. I know there's so many places that you can be spending your time. There's other podcasts that you could be listening to, YouTube channels that you could be watching. So thank you so much. It means the world. Now, I want you to do 3 things right now if you found this episode helpful. All right, number 1, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a YouTube channel. It's a companion channel to this podcast. All the video versions of the episode are on the YouTube channel. So number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Number 2, if you're listening to this podcast wherever, whether this is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, number 2, I want you to subscribe to this podcast right now so you don't miss a future episode. And then number 3, this is probably the most important, leave a review on the podcast. All right, reviews are super important and help the podcast get discovered by other people. So number 3, leave a review on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. If you're on the fence about scheduling a publishing consultation call with my team, maybe you're not quite ready for that, I've got some free training that I think will be really helpful for you. All right, all you have to do is go to register to sign up. Go to selfpublishing.com/free training. When you do, you're also going to get a free digital copy of my new book, Published. And on that training, you're going to learn the next steps, so how to implement with your book. So how to write, how to publish, how to launch successfully. So go to register right now at selfpublishing.com/free training. I'll see you there.